Hi there. Welcome to just a quick run through of how the Floto test app works. This is a beta test, so there are lots of little gotchas and things like that. So I'll show you the first one, which is a problem without scaling. Anyway, click OK, next, start testing. Okay, now, so the main concept with Floto is we click and take a photo of the screen. Now that's way too big, so just zoom this very first one out and you will save yourself a ton. So now we've got our layer of Flotos that we can resize. So these are layers. So if we go over here, we can actually see that's a layer. Important kind of concept to understand. Each new video goes on a new layer, so we can either capture by frames per second or capture by distance. So this is every 20 centimeters. Or click. Okay, so now we're going to have three different layers in our layers dialog. So we can play the layers. At the moment they're all playing. Usually they're kind of isolated. So plays back and forth. I'm just going to go through lots of different functions, and it's best to explain that we have some invisible buttons. So up here is the reset scene button, and that deletes all your Flotos. And then underneath that, I'll show you later on. But so we can click, if we tap with two fingers, that will delete the Flotos. That's not working. Undo is working, which is the top left button. I'm not sure if I like the orange. Anyway, that can change. The segment mode, this is an interesting one to show you. So now, the reason these little cuts are in the way, okay, that's going to be a bit of a hassle for me to fix. Anyway, so that's segmenting the human body at that stage. The other segment modes is the opposite of that. So then we have one that will key out bright areas. And the last one will obviously, dark. We'll key out darker areas. So we've got color adjustments. That just went to the last color adjustment, so it needs to be reset. But standard things like saturation, contrast, white balance, tint, bloom, exposure, vignette. Vignette's terrible, actually. It's all right to a point. But yeah, we can reset that. Then we've got Luts. Can't load the custom Luts at the moment, but there's high speed and aerochrome are probably my favorite. Well, okay, now, so the next panel is opacity, so that will do a blend mode with the layers. Some work well, some don't, and others don't actually work with the fader. The alpha one seems to work always with the fader. We didn't show you cinematic. So cinematic is replicating cinematic depth of field. So say we click on and move this little bottom one, then we actually get an f-stop. So we're going to call that f.1. That's more probably like about 1.2, but when you start, it stays on autofocus. So it's focusing on the center of the screen, and we can dial that f-stop down to get it better in the background. But the depth of field does actually respect real world objects. It's making a mesh, and that's why sometimes it is a little bit funky. Anyway, so we've got manual focus on this, so you can move over here and manually focus. Tap to focus sometimes works, sometimes it crashes it. So I'd probably avoid the tap one and just leave it on auto is the best thing, and then keep going about your Flotoing. Just make sure that it's in auto before exiting the menu by tapping up the top of it. We've got import, which is not that great because you can't resize the layers, but you can import movies and still frames and models. I don't know, models? Oh yeah, models probably takes in OBJs, but they're not resizable at the moment. Load isn't working. Beta doesn't have much that's useful. There's slice, which just does some real weird stuff at the moment with the UVs, which is kind of cool. A couple of invisible buttons to show you about. I showed you the undo one, which is that one up there. Underneath that is a black background. And then underneath that one is the flash. Yeah, the flash is going. So the flash is useful at night. And now underneath the reset button, there is actually a fancy second camera button. The tracking's not perfect, but it actually uses the wide angle lens, which I haven't seen any AR apps do. And another thing, you can tap the volume button to take a photo if you want to. That works. And then underneath, well, in that same button, if you click it again, it will go to selfie. So there's me. The autofocus doesn't really work because of a few different things, but you can do selfies. So hold on, here's me. Yeah, sorry about that. You got to see me. You can take selfies and they will segment in that mode as well. So then we'll click under there and we'll go back to the main camera. Possibly everything isn't tested with going back to that main camera. One. It's just trying to focus. I've got to be out of that menu. Okay, so now we're back to the main camera. What else have we got in beta? We've got some film grain things. Film grains don't quite work perfectly. Oh, they don't work at all. Yeah, don't worry about that. Debug, you can find out the frames per second, load 3D models. That's not quite working. Anyway, that is... settings is a very good menu to learn. Pan gestures means you swipe up and down and it will change the opacity of the layer. I don't know why we're not seeing anything right now. Sometimes you just be standing inside a whole bunch of photos. I'm just going to reset the scene. That didn't do really much. It's quite common to force quit the app. I'll just go back into these settings. So, yeah, when you restart, most things will reset back to default. Okay, so settings, pan gestures means you can control the opacity. Not very handy. Shutter sound, I've seen that breaks. White border, we'll put a white border on the photos, which is somewhat useful. It's part of a whole different effects range. This is quite useful, this auto rotate button that is positioned really badly. Means when you turn it to the side, the whole interface doesn't actually turn to the side. So I'll show you that with it off. Auto rotate. Yeah, see, that's kind of annoying when the toolbar pops round. So if you go into settings, not settings beta, into settings and turn auto rotate off. Ignore the rest of them. Maximum floaters is maybe something useful to get rid of. This is the floto size, and when they're smaller flotos, that doesn't set them. Yeah, the resolution goes down, so you can take way more flotos. So and this one that says 75, change that to 999, and then you'll be able to take pretty much unlimited flotos depending on your device, but it's quite quick. When it's a low resolution like that, we can also just go back into settings, increase the quality. 360p is quite good, and then we could, for example, go into segment, and we'll try human key, and we'll put in floto mode, make sure it's in video mode, and don't worry about the little blocky bits cut out, they disappear. Stop. Okay, eventually it stops. Yeah, see, I'm selected on the wrong layer there. It's 50. No, I'm not selected on the wrong layer. Yeah, that's a problem. Sorry about that. Another good setting is the quality setting, which is that one there. So you can lower the quality. It gets quite blocky eventually. But I find about halfway or just under halfway works fine, and you get better playback rates. So yeah, there you have it. That's a little bit of a tutorial video of all the various different functions. So the screen wasn't quite bright enough. Maybe I'll try the next test inside. All right, thank you. See ya.